Good morning, Nana. Today's lecture is about atomic spectra from atoms chapter. Okay, what is spectra actually? When an electron moves to the excited state or higher energy level, or when an electron moves to the ground state or lower energy level. Okay, what happens? It emits energy. Okay, this energy will be equal to the energy of phonon. Okay, this emitted energy belongs to the wavelength of electromagnetic radiation. What is electromagnetic radiation? Okay, electromagnetic radiation consists of radio waves. Okay, the wavelength which belongs to radio waves and microwaves IR, that is infrared region, IR region, we call it as IR region. Okay, and also the wavelength belongs to UV, that is ultraviolet region, and the wavelength belongs to in between UV and infrared region we will have visible region. Okay, first of all radio waves, microwaves, infrared region, visible region, UV region, and then after gamma rays and X-rays and gamma rays. Okay, this complete wavelengths, that is from radio waves to gamma rays, okay, the set of all this wavelength is known as electromagnetic radiation. Okay, Nana? Okay, when an electron moves to the higher energy level or moves to the lower energy level, it emits energy or it emits wavelength. This wavelength belongs to the electromagnetic radiation. Okay, when you observe this wavelength using a spectrometer. Spectrometer is an instrument which is used to observe the spectrum of the atoms. Okay, when you observe these wavelengths through spectrometer, okay, you will find out a series of bright or dark lines. Which is known as spectrum of this electron. Okay, spectrum of this electron. This is about atomic spectrum. So the definition of spectra is, just copy, when an electron okay, when an electron transition takes place from one energy level to another energy level. Okay, then what happens? This electron, or it emits photon with a specific wavelength, and this wavelength belongs to electromagnetic radiation. Okay, this is the definition of spectra. When an electron transition takes place from one energy level to another energy level, it emits photon with a specific wavelength. Okay, and the set of all these wavelengths is spectra. Okay. Okay, all the collection of all these wavelengths, the collection of all these wavelengths is known as spectra. The spectra is observed using an instrument known as spectrometer. Okay, and the study of atomic spectra is known as spectroscopy. The study of atomic spectra is known as spectroscopy. Okay, this is an introduction about atomic spectra. And this atomic spectra is of three types. One is emission spectra, absorption spectra, and continuous spectra. Okay, what is emission spectra? Emission spectra is observed when an electron is excited. Okay, when an electron is excited and it emits energy, then you will find this emission spectrum. Then the obtained spectrum is known as emission spectrum, and you will find out the bright lines. And you will find out the bright lines on the dark background. Okay, this is the dark background, and you will find out the bright lines on this dark background. This is about emission spectra. Coming to the absorption spectra, when the electron moves from the higher energy level to lower energy level, then the observed spectrum is known as absorption spectra. You will find out the dark lines on the bright background. Background. This is absorption spectrum. Emission spectra is when an electron transition takes place from ground state to the excited states or lower energy levels to the higher energy levels. You will find out the emission spectrum. And coming to the absorption spectrum, when an electron transition takes place from higher energy levels to lower energy levels, the obtained spectrum is absorption spectrum, and you will find out the dark lines and the bright background. Coming to the continuous spectrum. Okay, combination. Continuous spectrum is nothing but combination of absorption spectrum and emission spectrum. This is about the three types of spectra you observed when an electron transmission takes place. Okay, and coming to the spectrum of hydrogen atom. Okay, spectrum of hydrogen atom. When an electron transition takes place in an hydrogen atom, the obtained spectrum is emission spectrum. Okay, I will explain in detail. Okay.